this is the Doers to Doers session. So my role will be to make sure that we get the most out of these three beautiful brains that we have on stage right now. So I will introduce them first. Thank you very much for coming, Pierre, Annie, Florent. It's a pleasure really to have you on stage. I will go straight to the point. So before I will first present them to you so that you can know what to ask them already. So Annie, you are the CEO Europe at Persado. It's a Gen AI startup with 400 employees worldwide that is coming directly from the United States. And you help companies like bank and large retailers to increase their conversion rates by from 40% up to 75%. How do you do that? You use a platform that helps you generate better copy than the best copy that they have 96% of the time, which is a pretty impressive technology. On top of impressive client list, I suggest you to go have a look at their website when you have a chance this afternoon. And you're here to share your experience regarding the integration of your solution into these large companies. Florent, you are the head of the startup team at Microsoft. Yes, and your job is your direct witness to the value that big corporations can find in the French ecosystem, and your job is to make sure that you really have a maximization of the success rate of when your startups talk to big corporations that you accompany as well. So you're here to testify and maybe give us a tip or two about that.
Sure, with pleasure.
Fantastic. And Pierre, at Capgemini, you are responsible for the design and deployment of large AI programs. As examples, we can quote, for example, the big industrial Eramet, or something that I think is quite impressive. So you worked with the government to fight tax fraud thanks to computer vision. And Pierre, here present, made the government, and so all of us, save 40 million euro annually, I think? Yes.
That's correct.
Thanks to AI. So you can imagine the scale of the program that Pierre could develop. And so what you see every day is that the adoption of the technology is just the tip of the iceberg. And that on top of that, you have all of the change, transformation. We saw that it had a huge impact at Fnac Darty, and so maybe you can give us a tip or two about that as well.
Yeah, totally. Actually, I've been working in the AI field since, I would say, 15 years. And I'm passionate about this. I've started as an engineer from Cambridge and applied math. And the fact is, this technology is fascinating, and it's quite easy and fun to experiment. But transforming organization with it, actually, it's a long way to go. And it's quite easy to experiment, but organization needs to understand that if they want to make value with AI, they need to make their processes evolve. They need to find the business transformation they want to drive with it, and this should come from the top. They need to align their operating model. What was interesting in the discussion we heard before was the alignment of planet we need to have between business, IT, and all the stakeholders that will be involved in parts of the end-to-end deployment of AI solutions. It's also about building the foundations. When you will work with AI, sometimes you will bring your own data, and in Gen AI space, this is something that is embedded in the model, but in most of the times you will need to rely on the data from your clients. And if your client don't have data, you will have nothing. Another part which needs to be taken into account in such transformations is technology and the integration of the technology within the corporate landscape. And the example we have just before is really important about this. It's not about your solution, it's about how your solution will fit into the corporate landscape, meeting the security guidelines and requirements and so on, and making sure it doesn't overlap or create some, I would say, holes or defects in the overall IT architecture. Last but not least, I would say the culture. We all know that with digital transformation, and I know you have all good ideas, but if each single of these ideas transform into a new icon on our desktops, it won't be used, okay? So, which is really important to think about the user experience and embed it into the processes and in a seamless way, and make sure you have the right adoption of your technology, unless it's just going to be another solution that is not going to be used. And I would conclude about something that is more and more important in the AI space as of today, is managing the risks. When you will bring a new solution, you will bring new risks. It could be cybersecurity risk, it could be GDPR risk, but you all know that AI is bringing new risk as well. So for Gen AI, you bring operational risk, hallucination, we have all heard about this. You can have some bias, you can have some, if you operate in a high-risk use case in the sense of the AI Act, you will have to comply. So make sure that your solution does not bring new risk and is exemplary in terms of ethics and security. So business value and business vision, align the planet in terms of organization, data foundation, data foundation, data foundation, integration of the technology, adoption and culture, and security and risk. And that's a lot to think, but when we speak to corporates, corporates needs to align all of this to scale those solutions. So that's why you, and the example was quite right. For you, it takes a lot of time, because you have the solution, you have the value, and you say, okay, let's go, let's scale. But for a corporate, from a corporate perspective, if you want to transform, you need to think about all of this, and you need to make sure that the planets are aligned on all these dimensions if you want to make sustainable value at scale and be able to demonstrate it.
Thank you very much, Pierre, for the checklist. So now we know we know what to do, basically. And yeah, I want to ask you your impression as an entrepreneur. Like, how did you manage to shorten the time between the moment where you contact the company and the moment where you sign the deal, in knowing everything that Pierre has said, which includes parts that are obviously out of your control?
I would say luck.
That's the key takeaway. Thank you for coming. No, just kidding.
No, frankly speaking, I think the first thing we look at is, I think it was mentioned by in the previous panel. The first thing we look at is the champions. Who in the corporation can really own the solution?
Yeah. Like Emily did.
Like, exactly. While I was listening to Emily, I was texting the team and say, that sounds like music to my ears. You know? Because having a champion who's owning a solution, really willing to push it internally and guide us through all the complexity of a corporation. By the way, I have a dual background.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been working with in large corporations many years, so on both sides, corporations and startup, and I see people in the room who have the same type of background. So I'm very used to the internal complexity of large corporations. So the first thing is really looking for a champion. This is point number one. Point number two, it was said, is for sure bringing very obvious added value, something that is tangible, that is measurable. So again, that sounded like music to our ears, because being able to measure precisely the value, the additional value that you're bringing, for us is a must. And by the way, this is what we do daily with our the companies we work with. The other point I would mention to try to shorten the sales cycle is how easy it is indeed to insert this solution into the overall existing MarTech stack or whatever environment, operational environment. So this is the third pillar that we look at, which is, you know, how easy it is to operate this solution. And the fourth one is the commercial side of things. So the value exchange. We prefer, when there is not a balanced value exchange, to drop the ball rather than being taken into a too lengthy sales process. You know, we prefer to fail fast, you know, rather than really spending months and months chasing a given account. So these are the four things that we look at: relationship, value, operations, and the commercial balance. And this is something which is very important. For instance, just to give you a very concrete example, one very large corporation that we have been discussing with for a while, after some time they said, hey, we would love to run a POC. a trial at that cost. And we were not ready to do that. So we said, listen, take your time, make your mind, and once you feel really comfortable to jump in, we were happy to resume talks, and so that we really start with something very tangible for you and for us. And I think this is in the best interest of both parties. So this is a long answer to your question, but I'm happy to further elaborate later on.
Fantastic. I will ask you too. Florent, is there anything in Pierre and Annie's story that resonates with how you coach yourself, your startups, to be more successful with the corporates? And do you also have yourself a checklist of the prerequisites for it to work and the things that people need to be thinking about before going?
So, you know, Oriane, beside Pierre and Annie, told us what resonated to me is this morning you had to add more chair in the room than it was. So it just show us how vibrant is the AI startup ecosystem in France, and I love that. And you know, we had a lot of huge fundraising lastly in France. Sure, with Mistral, everyone knows about them. Lastly, for instance, with H company, you know, like they are like a secret company. They don't have released a product yet, and they still have succeed to raise like 200 million. Absolutely. In a seed round. So it's just show how the market is on fire, and there is like 100 of startup ready to take big project at customers. But what I love also to see, lastly, I've read a study by La BPI, and they said like in the US, for instance, and I know that's your core market, 60% of the company are already deploying AI project by themselves or with startup, while in France it's only 30%. So it means that there is still a market to take. We have for sure early adopter like Fnac Darty, but there is a lot of more companies that are waiting for the right solution to adopt this technology. And I do think the solution can be found in the ecosystem here. And what I see, there is of course a lot, I talk about the fundraising, like there is this huge name about tech company, LLM company, etc. But where I see the value, like Persado or that I had, is when a startup, they go like with concrete use case and by verticals. Okay. And for instance, there is an example that I love. Their name are Nabla. I don't know if you know them. That's a French company, but they only sell in the US, meaning that even if you're HQ based in Paris, you can also directly sell in the US. There is no border in the startup world. What they do, they have what we call a copilot for doctors, meaning that they, with a speech-to-text technology, they help doctors to save administrative burden, task, you know, they need to write prescription, etc. That's boring. And then the AI is doing that, and they can only focus on the patient. So love the technology, but they are successful because they are only doing that, and then they are relevant in that. And what Fnac Darty was mentioning earlier is they are not looking for an AI solution. Yeah. They are looking for a solution that is relevant for their business, that brings added value, and then AI is just a mean behind that. So happy to see a full room of AI doers today.
Yes, fantastic, yes. Doers that have asked a lot of questions, but before I get into them, I guess, how do you, Florent, what would be your advice? How do you find your startup? How do you find these corporates to talk to? How do you maximize the chance of planet aligning? And I will also ask that question to Annie after.
Sure. I mean, there is like a lot of way to match a startup and big corporates. What we used to do at Microsoft, for instance, is very in a humble way, we do have a lot of customers that are big corporate. We are working with Fnac Darty, LVMH, L'Oréal, and so on. And what we try to do on a daily basis with the team that is also here in the room is to match these startups that are, for some of them, running on the Microsoft Cloud. Maybe that's the case of Persado, with our customer need. And for doing that, we use several tactics. The first one, and I encourage you to do this. So for instance, at Microsoft, there is like a team of 10 people that are taking care of Fnac Darty on a daily basis. Meaning they know their use case, they know their need, they know the security layer, they know how their procurement can be sometimes like very crisp on such topics. So you startup, you need or have to rely on these Microsoft, Google, or Amazon account team to give you the best advice on how to sell to this corporate. The second thing I see to accelerate the sales cycle, and I think that's also a key top of mind for me right now in the startup ecosystem, is how do you use the cloud marketplace of the big cloud provider to sell faster to your customers? Let me explain this. Today, the big corporates, they have what we call consumption commitments with the big cloud provider. They are engaging to pay millions of dollars in the coming years to use the cloud of Microsoft, AWS, Google, and so on. You, startup, you can put your solution on sales on this cloud marketplace and use the commitments of these customers to buy your solution. That's an X factor of acceleration in the sales cycle, because doing that, you don't need to go through the procurement process that takes a long time, and I'm sure you will talk about that later. And then it helps you just to sell directly your solution, having the endorsements of the cloud provider. And that's a great accelerator of sales when you are a startup and you want to sell to big corporates.
Absolutely. So from what I understand, knowledge, but also network and right pathways will increase the luck that you were talking about.
Yeah, and let me give you a very concrete example.
Absolutely.
I just had a meeting last week with Microsoft, and this is precisely, and we were talking about the given account, and only the half an hour, it was only half an hour. The half an hour we spent together was super insightful for us in terms even of contact mapping, in terms of even insights about how to navigate the company. Only half an hour. On top of this, indeed, you have the marketplace that could be leveraged to expedite a bit the sales process, although you still have to contract directly with the company. But this is a very concrete example, and I can only testify, and for sure, having conversation with companies like Microsoft, like Capgemini, this helps a lot. And by the way, we talk a lot. And this is something that sometimes the large companies do not know. It's very interesting. They sometimes look at us, and I say, I used to be a large company, okay? I used to work for a large company. So we sometimes look at the startups like, okay, there's another one nice little things, coming up with the new ideas, cool. But this nice little thing is actually super connected, not only with the other startups, but also with large companies. And we do speak about, hey, what do you think about this, not only this company, but even this person? Do you think this person can help? How about this person? And so on and so forth. So it's very interesting, this dynamic, and this is something I can only suggest to pursue. I'd like to list a couple of things on really the connection between large corporation and startup, because this is a topic that has been very close to my heart for many years. We are fortunate we work with, in the US, in the UK, across Europe. We do see in France a very specific environment, although it's improving really a lot, but it's very interesting. Actually, what we see in France on a daily basis, it depends a lot on key executive sponsors. And those executive sponsors in some companies like banks, like telcos, like retailers, they decide to look at this and to set the tone for their team. And they say, I would like us to onboard new solution, to leverage new solution. Why? Not for the sake of innovation, not at all. Because they now have super high objectives in terms of generative value from AI. Société Générale, for instance, has been extremely clear on the topic. They said, we want to generate 500 million from generative AI. This is a very clear objective, which is set in stone and exposed even to their shareholders. So based on this, those executive sponsors, you know, some of them at least, have the agility and say, okay, listen, yes, it's great to talk to Microsoft. It's great to hear from Google. It's great to hear from McKinsey and so on. But let's carve out some quality time also to listen from those startups, even if we do not implement each of them. This is also very interesting. I can tell you we had sessions on generative AI with some ex-com and sometimes boards they told us it's super insightful because it gives another angle, another view on the topic. So this is one element. An exec sponsor, and it doesn't mean someone who's necessarily young, super tech savvy, super nerd, not at all. We have met with pretty senior guys that sometimes even print their emails, you know, but they are so open-minded, so excited, and willing really to listen. They change completely and they move the needle. So this is one element, a real exec sponsorship. The second element we've seen in AI, I'm going to try to be short here, but what we saw with the launch of Gen AI is that all of a sudden everyone in companies were using testing ChatGPT. Yeah. Great, cool. And the company said, hold on. There may be some risk there. So they stepped back and they said, listen, we're going to put together a governance body, something, you know. And that was actually very useful for us. Because all of a sudden we are talking to people who are leading data, AI. It was yesterday in a meeting with the chief data and AI officer of a company, very large company. And for us, it helps a lot because all of a sudden you have someone who's not only supporting this, owning this, but also has some budget as well.
Absolutely.
So this is something that is also very helpful for us. I just wanted to mention it. On the flip side of the coin is that for sure you have to go through the processes, no doubt. But once you're done with this, it's indeed much more helpful.
Yeah, and so from what I hear right now, one of the things that are also very interesting is like to have this exchange and to get to know the corporate very well. But I have some founders in the room who are a bit worried about that for a couple of reasons. To be honest, isn't there some time where there is a complete asymmetry of information between the corporate and the startups about the pricing, what's possible to be done? The startups are kind of like afraid to say a price that is too high and it will completely freak the corporate. In my past startup, I did that. I set a price way too high, and they completely shut me down, and I could not message them anymore. Just an example. But and sometimes, on the other hand, they feel like they can be taken advantage of, and yeah. So how do you deal with that?
Should I jump in on this one?
Please.
So, because this is probably something which is a very sensitive topic, super sensitive. How do we, as entrepreneur, as startup or scale up, engage equal to equal with large corporations? Because we somehow need them badly. Say, okay, hey, I really need this deal with the Fnac Darty. It's a super reference. Once I close it, I can communicate. And then this will open up other doors. Okay, so we are there is a kind of unbalanced conversation. But still, at the end of the day, the moment we can show the value we bring, my only recommendation here, and this is from experience, that please, I don't mean to give any advice. It's only feedback from the field.
Exactly.
From someone who has gray hair and less hair. So the feedback from the field is, it is crucial to talk equal to equal with those large corporations. Meaning you're bringing value, you stick to this value. There is no reason why you would give up a free POC. No reason. I see no reason on earth for you to deliver a free POC. There is, you have all the chances, because in front of you, you have people who perfectly understand this, sometimes the balance and the value exchange. So it's super important also to reach out also to the top level. If you're a CEO of a company, or of a startup, you're taking a huge amount of risk. And so you're fully entitled to write to the CEO of the large corporation. Sometimes this is something that sounds super weird. No, you're the CEO of that I ads, so you can absolutely write, drop an email to the CEO of Fnac Darty. More likely he will not respond, okay? But at the end of the day, you can really try out your luck here. So my point is, this is something that is super important. The other point I want to mention, procurement. Procurement of large companies are very trained and used to buy from our friends from Microsoft, from Amazon, from Capgemini, etc. So the guys are super trained in terms of training, negotiation tactics, and so on, that are completely off when it comes to startup. And this is a very fair ask to your executive sponsor or to the champion and say, listen, do you really want me to go through this process, and at the end of the day, we will be less and less friends, there will be friction, there will be impact on our pricing. I would like you, if possible, to carve out a special channel for the negotiation, and we do it quick and fast. And this works. This works. It works. They do accept. But you have to ask for it, as opposed to just comply with the process. So it's all about really daring to ask, and this is something we have. And sometimes when they don't accept, either you accept to go through the process, or you just drop the ball. It's an opportunity cost arbitration call.
And we've heard that dropping the ball sometimes was worth it. We also have, by the way, refuser des clients accélérera ta croissance. Refusing clients will accelerate your growth. It's a conference by HEC that is still up online if you want to check it out on this specific subject. Of course, take all of the opportunity also that you can get. It's a balance. So thank you very much for being very extensive about really how to get to the contract signed part. Now I want to focus on the after. And I want to ask, so there are a lot of questions, for example, on how to keep up. What are the key conditions? And maybe I can ask you, Pierre, who's used to really large-scale operations, what are the key things that need to be really prepared on the startup side?
All right, a lot have been said, but I try to be concise and provide another checklist, because as consultants, we love checklists.
Love it.
And I will start with the first point that have been said: you need to have business sponsorship. Okay, if you have done a POC within the IT and so on, and the IT say, all right, it's amazing, I'm going to purchase it, but then the business is not engaged, and the business sponsor is not on your side to tell his people to use the solution, after a few months, the usage will drop and your solution will get away. Second point, I've also been said, but it's really, really important that you align with your client on a value tracking process and metrics. And when I say align with your clients on value tracking process and metrics, I mean with your clients controlling. It's not the best practice. A good practice here is to have some finance people that are supposed to be neutral against your business sponsor, that can testify to the CEO that the value that have been created will actually fall down in the P&L. And you have set up a value tracking process that demonstrate the value of your solution day to day. And when it will comes to ask if we need to change or re-internalize or, I don't know, negotiate with purchase around your solution, you will have the tangible value that have been checked with the controlling that demonstrate your value. Third point, be really, 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 really aware about risks and security. I've seen a lot of contracts falls down because of this. So if you manage to succeed in the first step, the business is engaged and so on, as soon as there will be a flaw in cybersecurity detected in your solution, pen test from cyber, you're over, game over. And the corporates don't, they don't hesitate. 1 second. So as soon as one vulnerability is detected in your solution, boom, it's over. So make sure your solution is state of the art in terms of risk management and AI risk management. And we all know that Gen AI is tricky on this. And cybersecurity risk. So that would be my 3 checkpoints.
Yeah. On the value side, I can only echo what you've just shared. And sometimes we find ourselves in the following situation, where not only you deliver value, the value is tracked by both sides. So there is no, it's very objective. There is nothing subjective here. Sometimes, and we found ourselves in this situation where you deliver so much value that sometimes the corporation says, you know what, now that we know that you deliver value, it's fine, we're not going to measure everything, you know, because otherwise you end up with so much value that the fourth pillar, which was the commercial deal, is this balanced. They can realize that it's very unbalanced. They are driving a lot of value while giving you, let's say, a small fee. So sometimes they just say, and frankly, it's I'm not blaming. It's very fair game. But they say, listen, it's okay. Let's not measure furthermore. It's fine. We're good, because we also have to negotiate. So in the negotiation, sometimes this is put a little bit aside. But I can only echo it to what you've just.
And so, what do you do as a founder? Do you accept?
It's a little bit of friction, because we push. I had this conversation yesterday, really yesterday. We're pushing, even the management control, we tell them, guys, we want you to measure this bit. For instance, they've measured 10% of the campaigns where we had impact. And they said, wow, only on 10% you deliver this much. Great, we want you now to measure the 90%. No, it's okay. So, no, please, we need you to, so we push it. And you might come across a bit as too pushy, but I think it's fair. It's a fair ask. So we will keep pushing.
To jump on this, one good practice you want to have in mind is to embed in your product some value monitoring features. So we did it in some cases. And when you design your backlog and your features, you think about one persona, which is the one from controlling that is going to monitor the value. And you need to ask yourself, what proof points do I need to make the value tangible? So for instance, I've deployed, and I won't take too much time, but some AI to optimize smelting process in Norwegian smelting ovens. And one of the features was to say at the end, was the recommendation useful, and how much do you think it improved your process? When the operator clicked yes, you can say that it allowed you to optimize the process. And when you will click no, you have also a feedback loop that you can factor in to improve your algorithm and make it better each time. And it's the same for GenAI. When you say you are going to make some people get time, ask them and say, was my recommendation useful? And in some testing phases, try to ask them, how much time did they save? And that is a question around GenAI. We have a broad field of opportunities and many things to explore. The key things, and I think the key to success in the coming years will be to able to find the ones that are measurable in terms of value gained. And it's not a trivial.
Thank you. Florent, if you want to react to that, and also I have some questions in the chat of people that are saying, once we have signed, how do we make sure that we keep the quality of our AI system? How do we update them, etc., etc.? How do we make sure that we're relevant? I also have some other questions. I will leave you, like you tell me, because I'm not technical profile, but there's a question on like avoiding the black box effect with a non-fine-tuned or RAG-based foundation model. Does that ring a bell?
Too technical for me, for sure. But
we'll get to
echo to your question. That's I would say keep innovating. You know, because the AI landscape and mostly the GenAI landscape is surely innovating. And for instance, if you look at the past, we had like, 10 to 20 LLM models. Now we have 1,000 LLM models. And sometimes as I see, startups that are using like big, expensive GPT-4 or LLM for simple use cases. And it's like if you were going to grocery shopping with a Ferrari. I mean, there is no need for that. So pay attention to the evolution of technology. Look at LLM, SLM, all these models that are now easily accessible through all the tools that you can use, Hugging Face, Azure AI Studio, Bedrock from Amazon, etc. And then this will help you to ever keep proposing new use cases, interesting use cases like video analysis, image analysis, or ever reduce sometimes also the cost of your solution, and then you will make please the big corporate and their procurement
well,
team.
I have a founder who's worried that actually new models will make his solution obsolete. And so, yeah. So we have Pierre and then
Just
Annie.
wanted to jump on this because I'm in charge also with the Mistral partnership for Capgemini, and I've been working a lot from Mistral on dozens of use cases. And actually for a large corporate, a few months ago, we developed a value measurement protocol to compare Mistral to GPT-4, GPT-4o and alternatives. To jump on Florent's point, really important to keep in mind that the overall performance is not what you need to look at only. We all see the benchmark and MMLU and so on, but nobody cares that your model can answer geography questions. And you need to make sure that you have a performance assessment in place to make sure that you measure actually the accuracy given the business perspective. And I will make you a confidence. If you have a model that ranks, I would say 4.5, around 5, and another one that costs 50% less and is 50% more reactive in terms of latency, you don't mind losing a little bit of performance in terms of accuracy and business precisions for more latency, accuracy, and reducing the cost. So if you are looking on the model space, have in mind that raw performance is not the only metric that you have, and as founders, your role is to optimize the balance between cost, latency, overall performance, and versatility, and so on and so on and so on. So this reflection is key because this will be able this will enable you to select and swap from one model to another when in 2 weeks some new models will come and you want to try to and test.
And we are here to help you on that.
Yeah.
That's our job.
I'd like to briefly explain what we do and how we manage this question around the model. Long story short, you have many large companies like BNP Paribas, Orange, Carrefour, Fnac Darty. They expose every day content on their digital channel to customer and prospect on email, SMS, websites, app, whatever. So they expose daily content. And all those content have a common denominator, which is motivate a prospect or a customer to act, either to buy a product or to subscribe to the newsletter or and so on and so forth. Okay, or to download the app and so on and so forth. The language, the choice of words they use in those content drives 60 to 80% of the performance of this content. The words matter. And basically, today when you look at those companies, they're using suboptimal language, meaning that leaving a lot of value on the table. What Persado does, it's an AI that generates language that motivates someone to act. That's what we do. By doing this, you help those companies recover the loss that they're leaving on the table, that they're creating. So that's what we do. How we do that, and this will articulate with the LLM question. We have been training our model for more than 10 years based on real customer interactions. So we have not pulled data from all over the internet. We have just focused on training our system with real customer interaction. So when ChatGPT was launched, we thought, wow, that's interesting. First of all, it was fantastic for us because it educated the market immediately. But the second thing, we have found a situation where some customers were telling us, but now that I have ChatGPT, maybe I can do what you do with ChatGPT. So let me play with it, let me create content and see if it works. They did, and they realized that the performance was not there. Why? Because our system is trained with the domain-specific model. So my point is, all those generic large language models that are generic foundation models are outstanding, fantastic, and they did a fantastic job. But companies like us will leverage, for instance, those models, fine-tune them, putting on top our vertical solution, which is indeed a domain-specific solution with this very unique knowledge base. And when you combine this, you end up with something which is extremely powerful for your customers. So my point is, this is just to illustrate that at a point in time, we could say, oh, those large language models are a threat for our business. And it has created some confusion in the market while educating the market. But at the end of the day, you see that things articulate very well. Mistral is a very interesting generic foundation model, GPT-4 as well, so Llama. So just wanted to illustrate that sometimes, even where the market shakes you a bit, and that's what happened to us, we were like, how to position? And actually, some of our customers told us, but this is your position. And they helped us. So I hope this clarifies a little bit the question, the technical question on the tuning or the rack.
Thank you very much.
Does it make sense? Or?
Does it make sense? Yes. Of course, we can have some other questions. I know there are also a lot of questions. We also have to move forward with the program. I know also some of you need to leave early, so we're trying to respect the timing here. Thank you so much to the three of you. Do you want to say a last word or like something that you really wanted to say that didn't come across that you really like to say?
Maybe just the last word. Like
yes.
All of this topic that we covered today, we are just launching a new program that is called the Gen AI Studio. The team is here in the room. And the idea is to support and help the founders in all of this topic, like choosing the right technology, how to sell to big corporates. And right now we have like hundreds of applications. So please apply to this program. It's running by the end of the month. And then we'll announce it next month.
Nice.
Yes.
We need to talk.
Yeah, please apply.
And we will have a slide at the very end of the event with all of the information on the Microsoft program, of course.
I have a message for large corporation just before we leave. One last message, which is in France we have a fantastic ecosystem, really fantastic ecosystem when it comes to startup. Look at Station F and amazing startups, amazing companies, and we have amazing large corporation. Think about France, which is 65 million people per population, and we have, I think, within the 22 or 23 economic sectors, I think out of this, in 18 or 19, you have at least one large French corporation in the top 5. So it's impressive when you look at the density of the large corporation in France. So I believe, really, I truly believe there is a huge, huge value creation to be done if both get closer together. And really, you know what? It's not about structure. It's not about processes. It's purely about mindset. Because the moment you find someone in large corporation who is really willing to go for it, fantastic. And same on the startup side. If we speak their language, so please get trained about how to talk to a large corporation. Spend some time with them. Understand what's their code, what's their language, what their constraint. And this, as opposed to just selling. And I can tell you, it's worth it. Sometimes you're lucky because you have been working in a large corporation, but it's really worth it.
All have been said, and I won't be long to conclude, but I envy you because you have in the end a tremendous future to shape, and actually we are seeing AI getting huge. So it's probably a responsibility on your shoulders, but I'm sure that the coming years are going to be amazing for you.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us.